My name is Paul Anselm, Fire Protection Engineer with Ansel Engineering Consulting. We're here at Shaw Air Force Base, Building 118. It's a fuel maintenance facility. We've installed a new fire alarm and mass notification system, new wet pipe sprinkler system, and a high expansion foam system to protect the truck bay with the potential of fuel spill could lead to a fire. So this is not a hangar per se, but we're using a similar system to what you may see in the hangars.
I'm Christopher Davis, owner of Reliable Fire and Security, the fire alarm contractor on this contract. And my part of the contract is to install the fire alarm and mass notification system, narrowband transmission to the fire department. I'm Chris Davis, owner of Reliable Fire and Security, a veteran-owned fire alarm company here in Sumter. This is your fire alarm mass notification system. Is it a combination system? Meets all UFC 600 requirements. This is your fire alarm addressable control panel that talks to all the addressable devices out there. This is your mass notification system. It performs not only the amber strobe but also the audio messaging that goes through the speakers throughout the building. So these two panels together constitute one system. This is your interface on the front. Let me open this up right quick. Here you go. I'll hit you there. This is where you acknowledge system alarms, troubles, and supervisories with an acknowledge button. This is where you can silence the alarm after determining the condition and what it's trying to tell you, and also reset once the condition has been cleared. This is your interface with the mass notification system. It has pre-recorded messages on there. There's a base standard for what these messages are, and they're clearly labeled here. This is a remote microphone that you can take off of the system here. You can immediately enunciate through the building. Now, the way that you activate any of the audio messages, first you need to tell the system what speakers you want to use. All call is the button you hit there. System control will light up. Then you can hit the message that you would like. If there's a hazardous material condition, you hit hazmat.
A hazardous material danger exists in the area. Remain in the building. Please keep all doors and windows closed. Please
You can
wait.
pause the message by hitting the button again. And the way that you stop, you just repeat it. Turn all call off. System active. Turn the system control off. And the system's back to normal. There's also an all clear message that you may want to use after you have told the building that something is going on.
May I have your attention, please? All clear. The emergency has ended.
And then do the same thing backwards again. Sets everything back in normal state. If you'd like to use the microphone to announce to the building, same thing. Speak clearly through the microphone. Repeat yourself if needed. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
When you use the microphone, does it automatically alert anyone? Does that automatically alert someone, or can they use the microphone? I'm trying to clarify. If they want to just use the microphone to say something through the building, is that what that's purposed for, or does that need to be for emergency only?
It is for whatever purpose you would like to use it for, whether emergency or non-emergency. Use discretion. Use your God-given talents here, because there is a remote notification to the fire department in the alarm shop that the MNS, Mass Notification System, is active. And it doesn't say why. It could be any of the alert buttons. So as far as they know, it could be that there's a bomb threat, or that you picked up the mic and said, hey, everybody, let's take a photo out here for somebody getting their stripes on today. So use discretion. Any other questions?
Is it going to be password protected?
No password protected. The keys are in the locks. They're standard. This is Firelight off the shelf, which is pretty much the base standard. And there's plenty of keys around. Sergeant Manning has all the keys that you would need. And also my number if you have any questions during the warranty period or any time after that. My office is here in Sumter, so if you need me at 3 in the morning, just call Sergeant Manning. He'll call me. Any other questions?
Are there any other portions of the system that you need to train them on prior to doing a dry run test to show them how the beacons and alarms go off, or
Absolutely. The only items that you will really be interfacing with in this system are manual fire alarm pull stations. And there are 3 on this system, and they're explosion proof, and they're here in the bays. So if you'd like to come out in the bays, we'll go ahead and trip one, and you can hear the alarm message, and we'll come in here and silence it. This exactly, yeah. They know that we're testing here, they're disregarding. Now this is the way that it's tested. Turn the key and open it up. It's a plunger button that automatically goes off. Now, some ASJs like to use a little glass rod in there. We really don't use that here. I'd like to do a functional test. This is a dual action pull station. 2 actions. Push in there and then pull. To reset, turn the key. Lock it, push it back in, lock it back in, you're good to go. So you notice that the audio-visual notification is going. The condition has been cleared here. So now let's go back to the panel and see what it's doing.
You guys didn't have to leave.
There's our cameraman here. He's right behind us. There's our cameraman. All right, you notice that the LCD screen tells you exactly where the alarm is. Pull station, south service bay's door. Every device in here has its own alphanumeric description, so you know exactly where the alarm is. So the first thing that you want to do, since the building is evacuated and you've taken control of the situation, you want to hit the acknowledge step button. Okay, that shuts up the beeping on the panel. It's got the little musical note with the line across it. Next thing, hit alarm silenced. You'll notice that the audio message is stopped, the system is silent, but the strobes are still active. That is a requirement on this contract and a standard on the base. The strobes will remain active until the system is fully reset. So now, last button on the bottom, reset. And you only want to hit the reset button after you have cleared the condition. Otherwise, the system's going to come back up into alarm again. We have cleared the condition. Resetting system there. The audio system is in normal state now. It should come up and say, Shaw Building 118, system all normal, if everything went well. The system is going out there looking at all the devices, checking the integrity of the circuits, checking the status of everything. And if it's satisfied, at the end of this boot up period, that the system is stable, system all normal, you're good to go. Any questions?
No, sir.
Okay. Now guys, the other things that this system monitors, you have a smoke detector above the panel, which is code. You have to protect major components with a smoke detector. This system is also designed with carbon monoxide detectors in these rooms here. The mechanical room, this room, the office, the latrines, because of the exhaust from the vehicles that are going to be in this base. And the vehicles are running time to time for maintenance. So you want to be alerted to it's a hazardous material type detection here. The majority of this system is to monitor the status of the sprinkler system, the wet part, the high expansion foam system, and it also has a sub panel that's in that room. It's monitored for trouble, alarm, and supervisory. So the automatic detection here is a smoke detector. The manual stations or the manual protection. The rest of it has to do with this fancy, amazing foam system, which I'm going to hand it over to the next guys to demonstrate that.
Donald Sotts, I'm with Midlands Fire Protection. We install the fire pump and the fire sprinkler system, wet and foam system.
First things first, if y'all come to this building, water's running, you actually don't have a fire, something's went on, the trigger alarms and the fire pump is running, y'all are probably going to go in and check everything out. Once you do that, come in and cut your fire pump off and we'll go into the fire pump in a minute and I'll show you how to go through all that. but if you need to cut the water off to the building, the post indicator valve is on the opposite side of this fence right here. It's kind of leaning a little bit. I don't know why. Kind of buried. But it actually does work. And it is out here. And that's the way you cut the water off to the fire protection for this building. If you could not get inside. But remember, before you cut that water off, we want to cut that fire pump off. We do not want that fire pump to run dry. All right, the next thing is on the side of the building right here, you'll see you got your fire department connection, which is right here. This is your backflow test connection. If you ever want to full flow the backflow, you got two 2.5-inch hose valves right here to flow the backflow with. This is your fire pump test header. It's a small pump. You only have one 2.5-inch valve on it. This valve can also be used for a foam test header for the guys to come in and actually charge the foam system and take samples and everything through this valve right here. And that's basically the outside.
I'm gonna move behind you kind of and get better like this.
Yeah, we might be good that way.
Yeah.
Get everybody in there.
Come on, Lorraine.
Got a couple things in here we're about to go over.
You can hold my hand, it's all right.
Water comes in right here. You got your flange spigot piece coming up through the floor. And it comes around to your backflow prevention device right here. You got two control valves, one on each side. Either one of those control valves will shut the water off to the wet system and to the fire pump and the foam system. So those valves need to stay open all the time. It comes on down right here and comes up. This particular riser right here is your 4-inch wet system. If you go in the building, you see the sprinkler pipe running the building with the sprinkler heads, the upright sprinkler heads, that's this system. The fire pump does not charge this system. This system's running off city water alone. And the control valve for that system to shut it off is right here also. You're gonna have umpteen amount of valves in this. And every one of them should have a tag on them, and it should be wrote on there what that tag is for. But that is your wet system. This is where your fire department connection comes off and goes back. You can actually pump water into the system here if you need it. This is your control valve for your backflow test header. And that's just something new for fire protection, and most of it, I mean, you see it all the time now. Those valves run out so you can actually flow that backflow with full flow. You come on around, you can watch how the pipe runs back in here behind your foam bladder tank. Comes around and comes into your fire pump right here. Fire pump only supplies the foam and the foam generators. That's the only thing it'll supply. That's your control valve for your fire pump. You can actually turn the water off to your pump here. Bypass comes up and goes across and comes back down and supplies it. If anything ever happens to this pump, you can shut the valve off here and come back to the top right there. You'll still have water from your city. It'll just run up through and come across through the bypass and come back down and supply the system. Is what it does, if anything ever happens to it. This particular device right here is a flow meter for testing your fire pump. You can test a fire pump two ways. You can test it through a flow meter, or you can test it through an outside hose connection, which we have that 2.5-inch valve on the outside of the wall. Comes on around, comes through, comes up, and supplies your foam system. And this right here is what's going to make the big red generators out there. It'll flow the water to them, come through this mixing valve right here, and that's where your foam comes in and mixes with the generators. And now I'm going to go back to this particular device right here. If you'll notice, you got a mechanical sheet comes off, comes around, comes back to this tank. When that pump comes on, it brings water through this pipe right here, and it's got a bladder on the inside. It'll mash that bladder shut. And George, I think, will go over this with y'all too. But it'll mash, that bladder is full of foam. It mashes that bladder. Once it starts mashing it, foam comes out of here, comes back around,
goes through this right here, which this is a hydraulically activated valve. It works off water pressure and the switch right here. But it comes through and goes through that proportioner, and that's where your water starts mixing with your foam. And you got a control valve here, you can shut the foam off here. You got a control valve here, and you can shut the water supply off to that tank. It's just it's a bunch of stuff you have to remember, but y'all get through it. This is your fire pump control panel. This switch is up, this fire pump is actually on. If you want to come in here and start your fire pump, all you're going to do is come in, you can hit this button. It's a slow start, it's coming up there. Shut it off. Then it'll ramp down. Alright, if you ever want to come in here and test it without manually cutting it on, if you ever want to come in here and test it, put your foot on it. All you have to do is come in here, this little white button right here, hit that little white button. Soft start motor, that way it don't come on and hammer everything in here. This is this panel right here is a fire control panel. It has a computer. It used to be Mark II, but I don't think they call it Mark II no more. But that'll show you the readings, the pressures you have on this pump right now. It also shows you volts and amps. When this pump's running, it'll show you the volts it's pulling while it's running on all three phases, and it'll show you the amps while it's running on all three phases. But guys, that's basically it for the fire protection. The foam, I think George will come in and explain the foam to you, but it's a little more, you know, if you do it every day, you're used to seeing it. So that's basically it.
Any questions?
Any questions?
So if it's dumping out foam out there, and I just wanted to stop dumping foam, I can just go close that blue valve over there,
Actually, if it's dumping out foam,
and we're like, hey, we don't need any more foam.
you don't
Turn
need
it off.
more foam.
Well, what if we don't need foam, water, nothing? We just want the whole thing, like we don't want it to,
You want to shut it all the way off?
yeah, shebang,
Shut that valve right there.
right there.
Yep.
And then these over here kill all the water,
Yes, sir.
and then this kills all the water to the sprinklers.
That'll kill all the
So-
water to the sprinklers. If you want to shut, just remember this.
We don't want water not to go to the
Yeah.
pump because it'll burn up.
If that pump is running,
So go over here, shut this off, shut off the pump, then we can shut off the water main or the sprinklers.
that's it.
That's who needs to explain it to the second shift. He's got it.
That's it.
That's all I need. Hey, that's all I need.
Basically, just remember the one thing, guys. Don't never cut the water off while this is running.
It'll burn up.
Yeah, it'll, the impeller in there, it'll mess that impeller up. Say, this is just like the pump y'all have in y'all's fire trucks. Identical to it, there's really no difference in it. The only thing is it's sitting right here instead of being in the truck mount. But if you blow in this pump, you'll have your discharge side and your suction side. When we test a fire pump, we will not pull the suction side down below 20. Now sometimes on bigger pumps, when I test them, when I get to 150%, I'll pull them down below 20, sometimes 15. But once they get around in that area, we're not going no lower. Because that is actually going to start causing, if you get any lower, get in the vacuum, it'll start causing it to cavitate. Basically what that means is, we're actually sucking the city main dry.
Right.
And then the water's catching back up with it at a later time. But that's just, we watch that all the time when we test them. But this particular pump, we did churn 50%, 100%, 150%. And it passed all those tests with flying colors. After we did the 150%, we was just playing around out there and says, let's open a control valve or the test valve all the way up. That 250 GPM pump pumps 600 gallons a minute. If I'm not mistaken, when we did when AIC, when we did the fire pump test, we ended up almost with 600 gallons a minute. So that little rascal right there will pump a bunch of water.
I'm George McCall, Fire System. We install the high expansion foam generators, the 8 manual pull stations, the horn strobes, and the foam tank and the valve room.
Okay, what our part of this is they fill that foam tank. Water comes in, pressurizes the system, foam comes out, goes through the hydraulic ball valve, which goes into the system to the generators. The manual pulls on this area will dump the system, or the water flow switch from the overhead sprinkler will dump the system. The ball valve is in a closed position. This valve here will stay in a normal open position. Anytime the system trips, that valve will open, let foam into the system. And as far as they're concerned, anybody that comes here, if this thing's tripped, it's going to let foam go, so they need the water foam's going to go. Anytime somebody, that's the critical, that water flow there, if somebody's not careful, they'll come in, do an inspection, dump, flow water, they can flow foam. It won't happen but one time, they'll figure it out.
Okay, explain that a little better one more time to make sure that they don't, I want to make sure that's very clear for them.
This is your overhead sprinkler system. The water flow switch is tied into the system to discharge the foam. If somebody comes in and does the inspection on the sprinkler system, when they go out there and inspectors test and flow water, they'll flow the water flow switch. It's also going to dump the foam system.
Okay, so how do they bypass that to test the system and not cause the foam to flow?
Shut the valve.
Make sure that's shut off.
Shut the valves off.
And that's in the closed position?
Now it is.
Okay, all right. So in line, it'll be in the open position, obviously, just like normal.
Right.
Okay, all right, it's not backwards. All right.
So, like I said, then that's a matter of, you'll figure it out real quick. You'll have foam flowing real quick.
Okay. Is there anything in here that they need to be aware of that they need to do to test, or is there anything that they need to necessarily touch or do in here with the foam system?
That's up to their maintenance people. And this panel here is what energizes the foam. That's got your reset. I would assume the fire department, I don't know how they have it set up here. Usually the fire department's the only one to reset the panel.
We'll go to the main one. We probably won't come in, unless the foam system's actually running, we'll come in here. But if not, we'll go to that main panel in the actual base.
Actually, $100.
Yep, right there.
Money.
Yep.
Shut it off.
Well, we won't really mess with this panel too much unless we have to.
You shut this valve, you shut this valve, that stops water, that stops the foam. This is your first main valve to shut.
Okay,
And once you shut this, that stops the water from flowing.
cool.
And they can come in, at that point, the resets on the panel, they reset the panel, find out what caused it, number one. Because all it goes sets it off is that water flow switch and those 3 manual pulls out there.
Right. Just give me one of them.
One or the other.
Okay.
Odds are, somebody will dump it, they'll dump off that.
Now, drop in pressure won't affect that, right? So if we have a drop in pressure anywhere in the system?
That paddle there has to operate. It's got a delay on, like 30-second delay.
Okay.
That paddle has to operate in order for it to trip this panel out.
Okay.
We'll do that in a little bit. We'll
Okay.
you can set it off that way.
Okay, so if we have a drop in pressure, it shouldn't say anything.
No. This is all, a closed head system with pressure on it all the time. You shut the pressure off all the way, it's not going to do anything. But the main thing is when you have water flowing, you have to have water flowing for it to do it. And the odds of having a surge to come in and operate that water flow switch with a 30-second time delay on it will be slim to none.
All right, do we need to go show them now where the pull stations are at and explain to them what they have in the overhead and the bays?
Yeah, but I got one more thing I'm gonna show them right quick in here.
Okay.
Before you leave out. You come over, your fire pump's running, I'm gonna actually start the fire pump back up too and show y'all this. But there's a red PVC pipe that comes off the back and goes out of there. It goes out of the wall and runs on the outside, drops down. That's your packing drain. If you come over here and see water running out of that, that's fine. It's just like the fire truck. I know y'all park fire trucks in the bays and y'all have water dripping on the floor. That's the packing drains on that pump. That packing that's right here, it has to run water. If not, if it does not run water, then it'll end up burning the bearings up in that pump. But this little valve right here is what we call a casing relief valve. Now, if your fire pump comes on, if you don't have that valve on there, that fire pump comes on and runs, you can reach down here and touch the fire pump and it's gonna be hot. That water's gonna circulate in there. If it has nowhere to leave, it'll just circulate, and it'll end up burning the bearings out of it too. It'll actually get hot in there. But when the pump's running, and you can step outside and look, you'll see the water start coming out.
That's the PVC line within the wall above the floor grate. Actually, yeah, that's
Yep.
back there we go.
That's that casing relief valve. You come over here and see that going on with the pump running, it's okay for that to be there and for it to be doing that, because if that's not doing that, then that means it's not working, and that pump's sitting there churning that water around, and it's gonna heat that pump up.
What we're gonna do is show y'all how the manual pull operates, which let that water release, this is gonna be water, not foam. We'll do that later, but what you'll have is the system pull station. You automatically have water coming out of these generators.
How many pull stations are there?
3. 1, 2, 3.
2, 3.
All of them ready.
All right, let me back up some so I can get this.
All right, now for the actual foam test, the criteria is to achieve 1 meter of foam in 4 minutes. So what we've got throughout the area are buckets with sticks sticking up with a red line denoting our 1 meter mark.
What kind of time frame does it have to get the 1 meter?
4 minutes. We have 4 minutes to reach the meter.
Okay. It's 4 meters. 4 minutes to reach the meter mark. So once the foam reaches that red height, if it does that within 4 minutes, it's meeting the criteria.
Correct.
Okay.
Shut down.
Okay. Can you explain how you're going to protect the foam from exiting the building?
I'm gonna wrap plastic around all the way around the walls of the building.
And then we use water to do a final cleanup?
Yes.
Oh, Jane Allen?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Who told Jane about it?
She's here.
CE told her.
Yeah, that was it.
Good. She's here to see you.
I'm not
gonna see if I can go and place this
I thought he was gonna be really
They're
good.
not gonna start it before I.
Where's Jane?
Within a minute from having pull station or activation, things that use manual pull inside the phone room. At that point, we have to have silhouette of whatever vehicle is on the apartment here. So, two basic trucks essentially, and that's going to cover it. And then, going in and out. He's already done it.
The nearest exit and leave the building, not the elevator.
Mr. Silva, he's going to tell how to run through one side to the other.
The fire department is going to
killed.
activate the operate immediately. Leave the nearest exit and leave the building, not the elevator.
Now, that was a little bit
Fire alarm in the building has been activated. Cease operations immediately. Proceed to the nearest exit and leave the building.
Right,
Do
but
not
I'm assuming
use
that
the elevator.
also, like, the fire department, I mean, it goes based on, as soon as that trigger, that goes.
Attention, your attention please.
Once you're hearing it
The
from the
fire
fire
alarm in
alarm
the building
system,
has been activated.
when there
Cease
are 3
operations
orange strobes
immediately.
that flash blue
Proceed
strobes
to
that
the
are
nearest
not
exit and leave
cut
the
off
building.
because
Do not
they
use the
are
elevator.
extremely loud. They're distinctive.
We had tested them all this morning. They were loud.
Attention, your attention please. The fire alarm in the building has been activated.
Sleeping in here, it
Cease
will wake you up.
operations immediately.
Well, that's what I was just
Proceed to
gonna
the
say,
nearest
so
exit and leave the building. Do not use the elevator.
Essentially, it's so very simple.
Attention, your attention.
We're not too far behind you. We'll be 7 9 miles.